we're gonna see what comes out right now. And just an acknowledgement that this thing is not feeling particularly soft at the moment in its expression. So I don't know how this is gonna come out. But what keeps coming to me, and so I'll just speak this how it is coming instead rather than trying to like soften it in some way. But that mind identification is fucking insane. It is literal insanity. And I'll share my experience of how this is coming lately, and just so Bailey died recently, and I was noticing that the sense of that I've been having of attempting to relate to other human beings right now, it felt really familiar. And what it was kind of hearkening back to was an old feeling that I first remember feeling when I was in high school, when my older sister was really sick. And, I was essentially watching her die slowly over like a 6-month period. And she ended up not passing, but, was very, very close to death for quite a while. And at that point in my life, what I see now is like some crack opened, and I just remember engaging with the world and just looking around me, and I didn't have the words for it at the time, but just looking around me and realizing like, oh my God, the world is fucking insane. Humans are fucking insane. And looking around me, and the words that I would put to this now are likely very different than what I would have put to it back then. But what I see now is that was the first crack opening of really seeing mind identification for what it was. And just, having this experience, and this is what I've been sensing lately as well, having this experience of meeting an energy or having an energy surface in life that is so immense that it really can't be run from. We can try to run from it. We can try to run from grief and the facing of mortality and death, but to a degree, there's something in us that is shaken by it, and it can't run from it when it's, looking us directly in the face. And there's something about that, at least at that point, that created some sort of crack. And I was looking around and I couldn't engage with mind identification. And it made me feel fucking crazy. It made me feel crazy. But now I see that, like, oh no, mind identification is the insanity. That's the insanity. That there's something about mind identification that makes it nearly, I'm not going to say impossible, but very nearly impossible to meet those immense energies like grief fully. It makes it, I'm going to say impossible. I couldn't at that point in my life. I wasn't capable of meeting it fully, but I wanted to. There was something in me that so desperately wanted to meet the sensations that were coming up at that early point in my life, but there was no space for it. There was just like a looking around, and what was desperately wanted was just like a silent, somebody to sit silently with me and just allow the complete permission to like go into those feelings without trying to soothe, without trying to fix, without telling me like, oh, this is hard, this is the stage of grief that you're in, without intellectualizing it. Just wanting that permission to just feel, to just completely meet and contact the immensity of the sensations and the discharges that we're wanting to come through. And I can only see that now in retrospect after going through this, but it's just so clear looking around that mind identification makes it impossible to meet that mind, being surrounded with very well-meaning and, loving people who I'm so grateful for. But there's just something about mind identification that it's like a wall that can't let the immensity of that reality in. And I'm just finding that all my system wants right now is just silence. Is silence and just feeling, just wanting to feel those sensations. And there's, very well-meaning invitations to talk and, individuals in my life very well-meaningly, and it's so appreciated, wanting to soothe and to support. But what's being seen is that the way that identified minds support is through distraction from what simply is wanting to be met. And so there's this, and this was a very old feeling that I had, this, kind of hearkening back to that memory, that feeling that I had, but there's just like this simultaneously, like feels very paradoxical, but simultaneously like this deep intimacy with humanity, because there's such a clear seeing of just where that, I used insanity initially, but I'll say confusion. It's confusion, it's ignorance, it's ignoring, it's just ignoring what is, turning away from what is, holding away what is. It's confusion. And it's so super innocent, it's just like layers of conditioning, and the layers don't let the reality of the moment penetrate. There's a train coming. So you will join me on this train adventure this morning. It's been snowing here for like 2 weeks. And there's just snow and snow and snow. So much snow. Just snowing and snowing and snowing. And it's just such a beautiful reminder of presence. Like as I sit and really just reflect on the teacher of presence that Bailey was in my life, it's just like such a stark contrast between the silent presence that she held, and how just what a beautiful container that was in my life. And I don't need that anymore. I'm able to hold that for myself, but just really seeing how truly well-meaning beings are, but just the mind identification is impenetrable. It's just, there's so many layers that the reality of the moment can't get through. And there's moments of like presence that shine through, and that's so beautiful and so appreciated. Like I've had so many moments of, people that I love in my life just really being present. And then there's a watching of the looping start to happen again. And it's just like, I'm in awe of it. It's beautiful. Like it is, like the way that this is being spoken may sound like there's judgment of it. There's truly no judgment of it. gorgeous architecture. Stunning. It is stunning. But it's so clear, you know, just having that contrast of the experience when I was younger and being very heavily mind identified at the time, but there was something in me, like in that confrontation with death and with grief, there was something in me that was so desperate for a silent presence and permission to meet that, to meet what was just happening. And I feel that's what's wanted. That is what is so desperately wanted in all beings, all, you know, incarnated forms. Even in the deepest mind identification, you know, what's really wanted, it's not to change anything, it's just permission to meet what's there. And it's just like, it's so clear. It's so clear. But okay, so what I was saying was that there's simultaneously like an intimacy with humanity because there's such a clear seeing of like where that confusion comes from. And like remembering that feeling of just like desperately wanting permission to just like meet what's here. And simultaneously as well being at this place where there's just like the chasm between this and the state of humanity is just so wide. It's impassable. It's just such a deep chasm. And so it's just like this very beautiful seeming paradox of complete intimacy and almost like not, there is a remembrance of what that was like, but just feeling so far away from it as well. It's like, it feels like another world. But I feel that we all know what it feels like to, you know, like we've probably all experienced moments in our life of just like looking around and being like, is the world fucking crazy? Or am I crazy? Like what, just like this desperation and just feeling so alone. And in one, like you are alone, you're completely alone because it doesn't matter who, you know, who you have around you holding your hand, everything has to be faced alone. And it's, what I see is that like this desperate search over the last 20 years, really, you know, since that crack opened when I was in high school, when my sister was sick, there's just like this desperation of trying to, I didn't realize it, but just trying to find something external that could like give that permission to just meet what was happening, or to find that presence somewhere else. But then there was like this turnaround that had to happen. And you know, like we can have teachers in our lives, like Bailey was an immense teacher for me, Henry was an immense teacher for me of presence and kind of modeling that container, but then that turnaround has to happen. And we have to stop externalizing, or I had to stop externalizing that I need something outside of me for that, that like this, the presence is already here. What was being shown through those teachers, what's being shown to you through any teachers that you engage with, is that the presence is already, the presence is the ground. And there's an opportunity to stop externalizing. and to peel away all those layers of confusion or ignorance or insanity, whatever you want to call them, however you'd like to label them, and dig down and find the bedrock, which is that presence. And in the process, disidentifying with the layers, with I am, this job title. I am a mother, I am a father, I'm a sister, I'm a brother, I'm a daughter, I'm a son. I am financially successful. I'm not, I'm struggling financially. I am a lefty, a righty. I'm a woman, a man, something in between. Just all the ways that we identify. It's just, those get put down. They soften. And it's only then that presence can be met and known. And I'm sure many of us have models of that in our lives unknowingly. If you have a dog, if you have a cat, their entire being, their entire world is silence. That's why we love those companions, is because they model silent presence to us. There's something deeply, deeply comforting of a being that lives and is imbued with that silent presence and allows every part of what wants to authentically be met to be met. Children are another beautiful example. Nature is another. Nature is a pristine example. If you live somewhere that's wintry or snowy right now, there's just nature is permeated with silence. And stillness. And it's gorgeous. And that silence, the funny paradox is that presence, that silent presence, allows the insanity of mind identification. It totally is allowed. It's not better than anything else. It's not worse than not being mind identified. It definitely produces a lot more suffering, but it's not good or bad, not right or wrong. I have some little bird feeders that I put outside. Put bird seed in, and the birds outside, birds of every type, cardinals and some sort of little blackbirds that look like, I lived in Texas for a while, they look like grackles. Oh, there's a hawk out there right now, it's flying around. Cardinals, woodpeckers, finches, blue jays, just all the birds. They're just literally having a party by the bird feeder, and it's awesome. A couple of hawks flying around out there right now. It's beautiful. So mind identification is confusion. It's just obscuring. It's a protection strategy. It holds away meeting reality directly. which can be really uncomfortable because there's no ground to reality. There's nothing about reality that's in control. It's groundless. And so just this kind of constant pinging back up into mind and belief of thoughts prevents the ability to meet directly whatever is happening, which is sensation, visuals, sound, all the sense fields. Dogs barking. And the little jump in the body that happens, like, oh, the surprise. It's meeting it. And even if it's just for a moment, like even touching that presence for a moment and not touching the next thought, feeling a sensation fully and not intellectualizing it, not making meaning of it. That's all you need. That's all you need for that crack to open. But the thing is, you can't really make that crack open. It happens of its own accord, in my experience. You know, you can keep going back to the crack and kind of peeking through it as a reminder. Yeah. I don't know that there was really like a purpose or, you know, a point to this video, but that's what was wanting to come through. So